Welcome to Kind Curiosity, where we highlight those who have the audacity to be kind. My name is Felicia. In my previous episode, I interviewed international acclaimed Detroit artist Tyree Guyton and his wife Janine Whitfield. In that episode, we spoke about the Heidelberg Project and the fact that it's been 40 years since that work began. After that conversation, I wanted to find out what other artists used found or discarded objects to express their creativity. Assemblage art is when you take discarded or used items to create a work. I was also moved to ask myself what I previously considered art. What was my definition of art? And what biases did I have for other types of art? The Detroit Institute of Arts was a place I would visit growing up in Detroit, and I also took my children there when they were young. So, did that exposure create a bias in my mind of what was considered art? As I researched artists like Tyree, I began to get answers to those questions. I grew up hearing about Tyree on the local news. I remember seeing the polka dot house. There were different colored dots on the house and on the street in front of the house. I remember hearing others say the project was trash or junk. It was not until my conversation with Tyree and his wife that I recalled seeing my local news broadcasting bulldozers tearing down some of his work. Now, in 2026, Tyree received an award that recognized his work and its contributions to the city. And get this, in 2009, Tyree received an honorary doctorate degree of fine art from the College of Creative Studies. This is the very college that told him he did not fit into their institution. So what changed? How did someone who was once ridiculed and ostracized become celebrated and praised for the very same work? So I wanted to highlight other artists who used found or discarded objects to express their creativity. If you are of a certain age, you might remember the Watts Uprising of 1965 in California. As it was all across the United States during that time, Black people rebelled against racist practices, with those who participated in the Watts Uprising rebelling against the unfair treatment of the Los Angeles Police Department. The debris from that incident was seen as a point of inspiration for the artist known as Noah Purifoy. Noah was born in Snow Hill, Alabama in 1917. He was an assemblage artist that took wreckage from the Watts Uprising and created art in the expedition called the 66 Signs of Neon. He worked with co-author Judson Powell to feature 66 pieces of art created by him and other artists, all with wreckage from the Watts Uprising. Sometime later, Noah moved to Joshua Tree, California, where he created the Noah Purifoy Outdoor Desert Art Museum, which sits on 10 acres in Joshua Tree. When you view photos of the museum, you might get a Mad Max vibe, just as I did. The museum is open every day from dusk until dawn and does not require an entrance fee. Most of the pieces are located outside, while others are located in enclosed structures. No matter where you look, you can find everyday objects that someone like Noah saw as art. Some of the materials used were metal cafeteria trays, old pants, wiring of different types, reclaimed wood, and various forms of corrugated metal. One piece that stayed with me had 10 folding chairs on a flat trailer with 2 deflated tires. My first impression of this piece was a group of people watching a show or being taken to a place. Once I learned the name of the piece, I understood why it resonated with me. The piece is called Bandwagon. Because we are now in an age where it's okay to agree with a person or crowd without research or independent thought, this piece made sense to me. I thought of Tyree, Noah, and the other artists in this episode, not jumping on the bandwagon of what the world considered art. Instead, they blazed their own trail and were celebrated for it, eventually. Noah's expedition, called Noah Purifoy Junk Dada, was featured in the Los Angeles Community Museum of Art. His work in that installation, and all of his work, can be expressed by a quote from Noah himself. It states, "You need to look hard and think deeply to grasp the messages. It took hard work and struggle to produce them. And it is hard work to understand them. But so it is with most worthwhile things," end quote. Another assemblage artist I uncovered was Nellie Mae Rowe. She also used discarded and everyday objects to create her art pieces. She transformed her home and yard into a deeply creative exhibition for her work. She often called it her playhouse, with some critics calling her work radical. Nellie was born July 4, 1990, in Fayetteville, Georgia. Her father was born into slavery, while her mother was born after the Emancipation Proclamation. After her husband of 30 years passed away, she was quoted as saying she was finally unencumbered by the monotony of household labor. How many of us can identify with that? Thus, she felt free to express herself by using her home and yard as a canvas. One of the most unusual mediums she used was chewing gum. Wait, correction. Used chewing gum. You heard me right. Used chewing gum. But just so you aren't too grossed out, it was her own chewing gum. As Nellie would often chew gum to treat her constant headaches. She would take the chewed pieces, knead it together with other pieces, sculpt it into their desired shape, and place it in the freezer. One piece appears to be the mix of a man and an animal with plastic flowers, plastic beads, and hair. Again, here is an artist that transformed everyday objects, some of which I would never think of using to create art, but it made her happy. The neighborhood in which she lived did not initially accept her art because it spilled into her front lawn and the exterior of her home. Like Tyree, she experienced vandalism of her work, but she persisted in spite of it. Some of her work is featured in the digital collection of the New York Public Library. The collection is called Something from Nothing. Her quote attached to the collection states, "When other people have something they don't know what to do with, they throw it away. But not me. I'm going to make something out of it." That quote reminds me that what I considered as art may not be the same as someone else. And that's perfectly okay. Lastly, Let's take a look at artist Simon Rodia. He was born in Italy in 1879 and came to the U.S. as a young man. Some of the found objects he used in his work consisted of broken glass from soda bottles and milk of magnesia bottles. If you recall, milk of magnesia came in bottles that were a pretty shade of cobalt blue. He also used railroad tracks, ceramic shards, steel rebar, and other found objects. If you live or lived in the Watts area of California, you might recognize his most famous work, the Watts Towers, also known as Towers of Simon Tada, or Noreste Pueblo, which is Spanish for Northwest. The towers are a collection of 17 interconnected sculptures that look like spirals. It took Simon 33 years to complete this installation. It was added to the National Register of Historic Places in 1977 and designated a California landmark in 1990. The material he used to construct Watts Towers was also used to make his bungalow home. In 1956, a fire destroyed an enclosure that was attached to his home. The city of Los Angeles wanted to condemn the entire site. However, due to pressure from around the world, as he was already well known for his work, the city was forced to conduct an engineering test to determine the structural soundness of the home. It determined that his home could withstand lateral forces of up to 10,000 pounds. That test allowed him to keep his home. Tyree's story and those of other artists remind me that even though a textbook or history lesson can define art, it cannot tell you or the artist what art is. Tyree, Nellie Mae, Noah, and Simon all had the audacity to produce pieces that captured their imagination, emotion, and life experience so that the world could understand what they wanted to convey. So ask yourself, what do you believe counts as art? What were you told art was? And more importantly, why do you believe that? When Tyree began his work, the city of Detroit was seen as a place of ruin. Tyree took that image, used found and discarded objects to create work that is now internationally known and recognized. His type of work has been trademarked as Heidelbergology. So as I researched and learned about other art forms, I began dismantling the biases that I held. Thus, kind curiosity led me to have the audacity to rethink those biases. I hope that this episode will allow you to do the same. Thank you for allowing me to occupy space in your day. If this topic resonated with you, please leave a comment. Don't forget to click the notification button so you don't miss a single episode. And please, have the audacity to be kind. Until next time.